There are shows that get canceled, there are shows that quietly fade out, and then there's the one that was still pulling 17 million viewers a week when somebody looked at $50 million and said no. 204 episodes, 8 seasons, top 10 in the Nielsen ratings every single year it was on the air, which almost nothing does. At its peak, 35.2 million people sat down for it every week. And in one 12-month stretch, the guy at the center of it had the #1 sitcom, the #1 book, and the #1 movie in America at the same time. But the Jill you remember wasn't the first Jill they hired. The men who created the show sued Disney twice, and the second time they claimed it had made $1.5 billion they never got their cut of. And when ABC came back with the fattest offer that network had ever put in front of a sitcom cast, one of the two people it was aimed at turned it into a weapon. This is the rise, the slow bleed, and the $50 million standoff that ended Home Improvement. Let's go all the way back to 1990. Matt Williams had just been through the worst job in television. He created Roseanne, and by 1988, he'd been pushed off his own show. He came out of that saying he didn't want to build another series around a stand-up comedian ever again. Then, somebody put him in a room with Tim Allen. Allen was working Detroit clubs with an act about men, garages, and power tools. Not jokes about relationships, jokes about horsepower. Williams and his partners at Wind Dancer, Carmen Finestra and David McFadzean, watched that act and saw a family sitcom hiding inside it. They started developing it in the summer of 1990. Allen came with a history. On October 2nd, 1978, he was arrested at Kalamazoo Battle Creek Airport in Michigan with more than 650 grams of cocaine. His timing was terrible. Michigan had just passed a law that carried a life sentence for exactly that quantity. Allen gave authorities the names of other dealers, which moved him into federal court and off the hook for the life term. He was sentenced to 3 to 7 years. He served 2 years and 4 months and was paroled in 1981. Years later, he told Mark Marone what prison taught him. "I learned how to shut up." Before he reported to serve that sentence, he'd already started doing stand-up. So that's the man ABC was about to build a family show around. And the show wasn't even called Home Improvement yet. The original title was Hammer Time, a play on the MC Hammer catchphrase and the name of the fake handyman program inside the show. The title changed once ABC committed in early 1991, but when they shot the first pilot that April, the script still called the show within the show Hammer Time. I say the first pilot for a reason, because there was more than one. The role of Jill Taylor originally went to Frances Fisher. She was a serious dramatic actress, best known then for a long run on the soap The Edge of Night. They cast her, they rehearsed with her, they filmed a pilot with her, and then, about 3 days into rehearsals, they let her go. Richard Karn, who played Al, was standing right there when it happened, and he was rattled. He went to Carmen Finestra and asked him what he'd just watched. Finestra's answer was that Fisher was good, she just wasn't getting the right laugh. Karn's read on it later was blunter. In that role, next to Allen, she came off more like his victim than his equal, which sounds cold until you understand what the show needed. The engine of Home Improvement is a wife who can take this man apart. If Jill just absorbs the damage, you're watching a guy bully his family for 22 minutes. So they went to Patricia Richardson. She never auditioned. She'd worked with people on that team before, and they simply offered it to her 3 months after she'd given birth to twins. She nearly said no. She'd done a pile of sitcoms that died after one season, and she didn't want to play another flawless television mother. What changed her mind was finding out these were the Roseanne guys, and the Roseanne guys could write women. They put her in the room, ran the same scene with the same words, and the audience came apart. There's a second near miss in that pilot, and it's a good one. The Tool Time girl was originally going to be Ashley Judd. Matt Williams thought she was too talented to waste on it, so he called her agent and said he'd write her a proper part instead as Tim's sister. A couple of days later, the agent called back. Judd was passing. She wanted films, not television. The role of Lisa went to a model with almost no acting credits named Pamela Anderson, and it made her famous. And Richard Karn, the guy who stood next to Tim Allen for 8 years, he was a placeholder. Al Borland was earmarked for character actor Stephen Tobolowsky, who had a scheduling conflict. Karn had never even shot a pilot before. He never left. If you watched this show when it was on, do me a favor and hit the like button. It's just a way of saying you were there. And subscribe if you want more of these. Home Improvement premiered on September 17, 1991, and finished its first year tied for 4th in the country with 28.9 million viewers a week. Season 2, 3rd, 31.5 million. Season 3, it hit number 2 behind 60 Minutes, averaging 35.2 million people every week. In December 1994, it was the most watched program in America 2 weeks running, with a 22.1 rating and a 32 share. That same year, Allen had The Santa Claus in cinemas and his book on the bestseller lists. One man, 3 number ones. Richardson picked up 4 Emmy nominations and 2 Golden Globe nominations along the way, which matters later, so file it. Pamela Anderson left after season 2. Debbie Dunning took over as Heidi from season 3 and stayed to the end. Anderson came back exactly once, in May 1997. Now, here's where the actual money is, and it's not where you think. A network license fee is rent. ABC pays a studio a fee per episode to air it, and that fee usually doesn't even cover what the episode costs to make. Studios eat that deficit on purpose because the real payday is syndication. Once you've banked enough episodes, you sell the whole library to local stations who run it 5 nights a week forever. There's normally a threshold. Stations want about 100 episodes so they can strip the show, which means running it every weeknight in the same slot without repeating for months. Clear 100 and a hit stops being a television program and starts being an annuity. Home Improvement got sold into syndication in 1993 during its 2nd season. That is absurdly early. Buena Vista, Disney's distribution arm, was selling it off before anyone knew whether the show had 4 years in it or 8. The reruns started airing in September 1995 and kept going until 2007. Disney cared about that launch so much they shot an episode specifically for it called Tanks for the Memories. Remember that syndication money. It comes back at the end of this, and it comes back ugly. Allen's own deal climbed with the numbers. For most of the run, he was reportedly making somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 an episode. By 1998, that was reportedly up around $1.25 million. In season 6, he was made an executive producer, which is not a vanity credit. It's a seat at the table and a share of the upside. Patricia Richardson asked for a producer credit too. She didn't get one. Years later, co-creator Carmen Finestra told the Los Angeles Times he didn't remember any conversation about it, and that it could very well have been a Disney decision. Hold on to that, because it becomes the whole story. Nothing dramatic killed this show's ratings. It just leaked. Season 3, 35.2 million. Season 4, 32.9. Season 5, 25.9. Season 6, 23.1. Season 7, 19.5. Season 8, 17.7. Half the audience gone in 5 years. Some of that is the schedule. In September 1994, ABC moved it to Tuesday nights at 9. Some of it is NBC, which spent the mid-90s building the most powerful comedy block in television history and dragging the young audience over to Thursday. And a lot of it is just arithmetic. A family sitcom is a show about kids, and the kids on this one were growing up in public. The boys who watched Randy in 1992 didn't need Randy in 1998. Neither did Randy, because he left. Jonathan Taylor Thomas was the breakout, the poster on the bedroom wall, and by season 8 he wanted to go to school. So they wrote Randy off to an environmental program in Costa Rica in an episode called Adios on September 29th, 1998. His last real appearance was the Christmas episode that December. He didn't come back for the finale at all. When you watch the last episode, the middle son is archive footage. There's one more thing happening in that exact window. From September 1995, you could watch Home Improvement in reruns every weeknight and then watch a new one on ABC. Syndication doesn't kill a hit by itself, but it does make a show feel permanently available. And season 5, the first year those reruns were running, is where the audience drops from 32.9 million to 25.9. Money was moving quietly in the background too. Going into that 8th season, Richardson renegotiated her contract again and won herself more profit points. Not the producer credit. Points. And by then, both leads privately thought the thing was finished. Richardson has said they'd essentially run out of stories. There are only so many times a man can destroy a household appliance. Now, the part that everybody gets wrong. Home Improvement was not canceled. ABC ordered 28 episodes for that final season. The biggest order of the entire run, which is not what a network does to a show it's finished with. And look at where it sat. In 1998 and 1999, the only ABC program in America pulling a bigger audience was Monday Night Football. Not NYPD Blue, not Drew Carey. In its worst year, on its way down, this show was still the network's #1 scripted series and the 10th most watched thing on television, with 17.7 million people a week. ABC did not want it to end. ABC wanted more. So they made an offer, 25 episodes, a 9th season, $2 million an episode for Tim Allen, $50 million for less than a year of work, $1 million an episode for Patricia Richardson, $25 million. This is years before Friends made $1 million an episode a famous number. Allen, by Richardson's account, was ready to sign. She wasn't. As she told the Los Angeles Times, there wasn't enough money in the world to get her to do a 9th year. The show was over. It needed to end. She was newly divorced, raising 3 children, and she'd spent 8 years away from them. But she didn't just decline. She countered, give her the same $2 million an episode they'd offered Allen, plus the executive producer credit they'd already given him, and she'd come back. She's been completely open about why she picked those terms. She knew Disney would never pay it. That was the point. In her words, it was her way of saying no, and a little bit of a flip-off to Disney. By her count, they never paid her even 1/3 of what Allen was making. Her line about it is the sharpest thing anyone has said about this show. She was a big reason why women were watching. Disney said no, exactly as she expected. So the most watched family sitcom of the decade ended on May 25th, 1999, because a network happy to spend $50 million on one actor wouldn't spend the same on the woman standing next to him. It cost her with Allen. She said she was angry at him for leaving her as the only person saying no, which made her feel like the villain, and that he was upset with her for leaving. Allen never left ABC. Last Man Standing ran 9 seasons across 2 networks, then The Santa Clauses, then shifting gears. Richardson stepped back on purpose, took roles she wanted on The West Wing and Strong Medicine, and says she's proud of the show. Jonathan Taylor Thomas got the education he left for, went to Harvard, and later directed episodes of Allen's next series. Richard Karn hosted Family Feud and made 2 History Channel shows about tools with Allen. Taron Noah Smith quit acting and later fought his own parents over his trust fund. Zachary Ty Bryan has had repeated and serious legal trouble since. Earl Hindman, who played Wilson, died of lung cancer on December 29, 2003, at 61. In October 2025, 4 of them shared a screen for the first time since 1999 on Shifting Gears. And that syndication money I told you to remember. The creators went after Disney twice. The first, in the mid-90s, was one of the earliest vertical integration cases in the business over how Disney licensed the show to stations it had an interest in. It settled, and it built the road that later runs through The Walking Dead and Bones. The second was 2013. Windancer and the 3 creators sued for 75% of the net profits on a show they said had made Disney $1.5 billion. Their complaint alleged Disney sold the show into syndication in New York, the biggest television market in America, for no money at all, and charged itself distribution fees of 35% and 40% on cable. A judge threw it out on a 24-month objection clause. An appeals court revived it in 2017 over whether Disney's own audit delays had made that clause impossible to meet. The creators asked for more than $40 million. In July 2019, weeks before trial, Disney settled, and nobody will say for how much. $50 million was the number that ended Home Improvement. It wasn't the biggest number in the story, it wasn't close. If you enjoyed this deep dive, give the video a like and subscribe for more retro TV deep dives. Thanks for watching.